Good morning, friends. So, yesterday, August 3rd, something shifted in the sky that's going to quietly shape the next several years for a lot of us. Chiron, the wounded healer, just stationed retrograde at 0 degrees Taurus. And don't worry if that sentence means nothing to you yet. Stay with me because by the end of this episode, you're going to understand exactly why old wounds around money, worth, and safety in your body have been surfacing lately and what to actually do about it. Now, a lot of people do not know what Chiron is, okay? But before we get into all the details of what it represents on your birth chart or in your life, I want to tell you that in April, Chiron entered its retrograde shadow, and then it dipped into Taurus in June, and basically now is retrograde in Taurus. So as we continue on, by April 2027, it's going to stay in Taurus for good for the next 7 years. So whatever you're experiencing now around your wounds or things that you need to heal is going to be almost like a shadow of what is coming up. Or you can, you know what, you can honestly kind of look at it as a movie trailer. So it's like, hey, this is kind of the summary of what's going to happen for the next 7 years. So we get a preview of the themes now, and it's a chance to notice like what really is going on before the real work begins. Retrograde Chiron isn't asking you to fix anything yet. It's asking you to look, to be aware, right? So a little bit about Chiron. The myth behind this is that a centaur, half human, half horse situation who was accidentally struck by a poisoned arrow. Immortal, he couldn't die, but he also couldn't fully heal. Okay, so the teacher here, despite his own unhealable wound, Chiron became the teacher of legendary healers, including the god of medicine. Okay, so the archetype is this place in the psyche where a deep, often unexplainable wound becomes the source of your greatest wisdom and your greatest capacity to help others. And isn't that kind of how life is? Sometimes our biggest wound that we had to overcome is what we teach other people, the way that we support other people. Sometimes it becomes our job, like our actual occupation, right? So the paradox here is Chiron isn't the wound you overcome and move past. It's the wound you learn to carry differently. And that ongoing relationship is exactly what makes you able to hold space for other people's version of it. Honestly, when I read Chiron's story for the first time, I thought, that's it. That's the whole reason I do this work. Not because I healed and now I teach from the other side, but because I'm still in it. And that's exactly what makes this work honest, authentic, and in the moment a lot of times, right? You guys get to go through a lot of these things with me. So what Taurus represents, let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, it's a fixed earth sign ruled by Venus. Steady, sensual, resistant to being rushed, very grounded, you guys. Taurus signs are very grounded. It rules the second house, which the second house represents money, possessions, personal values, and self-worth. The core question here is not, am I loved, but do I believe I deserve the security and stability I say I want? Right? That's a deeper self-worth than, I would say, topical things, right? Without that belief, no amount of external comfort actually lands. So the body connection here is Taurus won't let you skip the body. You can journal your way around almost any other sign's lesson, but Taurus makes you feel it somatically in the nervous system before it lets you intellectualize it. Okay, so Chiron in Taurus, what the wound is actually about. Let's just put the two together plainly, right? This transit is asking an entire generation to look, like really look at the wound underneath money, self-worth, body safety, and, feeling enough. Not to fix it yet, but to finally see it. Taurus isn't a mindset issue, it's a safety issue. The self worth conversation almost always starts in the body before it shows up as a thought. So the tightness when a bill comes in, the bracing when you're asked what you charge, that old floor dropping out feeling when stability feels uncertain. That's Chiron in Taurus. Not a story you think, it's a state your body remembers. So there's a heavy emphasis on the body here. Since this is the retrograde season part of it, right? This is just like we're looking at this window, we're looking at this movie trailer of what's coming up for you for a long 7-year stretch starting in April 2027, okay? So keep that in mind as you think about what has came up for you today or even the last week or so, and then coming into the rest of August. Sorry, we're in August now. Right now, the invitation is smaller and quieter. Track what you feel when worth, money, or safety come up, right? Write it down. Don't rush to resolve it because the answers may not be there yet. Okay, retrograde energy rewards witnessing, not fixing. Okay, with the subconscious work that I do, I can tell you that most people have subconscious money blocks. They have generational patterns around worth or nervous system safety. This is something that I teach all the time. And it's the reason why people book one-on-one appointments with me is because they keep coming back to those things. I can tell you right now, I'm already getting a flood of people looking on how do I actually heal through this? How do I actually put this behind me? So be aware that that is something that is going to come up for most people. Now, I want to do a little special caveat here because I realized when I was working on this that I have Chiron in Taurus. It's at 29 degrees, so it's nowhere near that right now. But I realized that there's a big generation here of people that listen to this podcast that are probably moving into their Chiron return. So if you were born between 1976 and 1984, roughly, you might want to pull up your natal birth chart and see where Chiron is at because it's probably in Taurus, okay? And it's coming back around to hit up that same spot again. So what exactly is a return of Chiron? Well, Chiron's orbit takes roughly 50.7 years. Okay, so a Chiron return is the one-time moment transiting Chiron lands back on the exact degree it held at your birth, typically between the ages of 50 and 52. So if that's you, hey, you might be really seeing this right now. The last time Chiron passed through Taurus was 1976 through 1984, right? So this entire 2026 to 2034 chapter that we're going into is speaking most directly to you. Okay. Right now, though, it's at 0 degrees Taurus. So since mine is 29 degrees in Taurus, it's essentially the last degree of the sign. It's nowhere near mine yet, but that's the honest, important nuance. This August moment is not my return. It's the opening seed. But I encourage all of you to check that out for yourself and see where it's at. Now, I know most of us, especially in our society, have this idea that we want something really fast. We want something to be over fast. We want the lesson to be learned. We want our food as fast as possible. All the things are meant to be here, right? The Amazon, whatever. But here's the deal. Since we know that this is a chapter that we were likely going to be in for the next 7 years, okay? So let's talk about some practical ways you can navigate this retrograde, okay? First off, somatic check-ins. Okay, so before you react to a money or a self-worth trigger, pause and ask your body what it's doing. Check in with your chest, your jaw, your stomach, your breath. Name the sensation before the story, okay? Before you end up in a nervous system dysregulation. And document it. You guys can write down what happens. Okay. Because when you track it, if you feel, the story come up where it's like, I'm not good enough, I'm not safe, right? That shows up. The felt sensation from that narrative is in your body somewhere. I can guarantee that. And that sensation is data, right? The story is often decades old and no longer true, but whatever is coming up in your body is something that we can actually focus on releasing and calming for next time that story comes up. Okay, a lot of times when we do the somatic work that I do, we're releasing certain limiting beliefs or certain subconscious programs from an area of the body. Sometimes it's felt in the stomach because that's like a worry trigger. Sometimes it's in the shoulders because, there's this tense, like I've got everything on my shoulders vibe happening. So just notice and recognize where that is coming for you and jot it down. Okay. The retrograde is for reviewing, not resolving. If a worth wound surfaces, resist the urge to overhaul your whole life this week. Okay. Just witness it. Okay. The action season is going to start in 2027. Here's something else you can do. Okay. Just pick one small values aligned act this week, like treating your body well or paying yourself first. That's something a lot of us forget to do. Or saying your rate without shrinking it and offering a discount, right? Small and real beats big and performative right now. Be your authentic self. A lot of people ask, how do I attract more, good relationships into my life, whether that be friends or clients or even a spouse or, partner, right? We do that by being authentic, by showing small parts of us that are really true to who we are. That's how we attract more of that into our lives. So let's focus on that this coming week. So here's some journaling prompts that kind of carry on these practical things you can do. Where in my body do I feel it when my sense of safety or worth gets touched? Okay. What did I learn about deserving stability before I was old enough to question it? What's one place I've been asking my mind to solve something that's actually asking to be felt? Right? Because sometimes we skip over, we skip a few steps. We want to go to that ending already, when really our body or our mind is asking us to feel each piece. Sometimes we can lock away some anger about something, and that anger will just stay there and it'll become a physical manifestation of this emotion. And then what happens, when our patience is very, very small one day, or the kids are screaming and you still have work to do, or whatever happens, bam, all of a sudden we're angry, right? And it bursts out. Well, when we originally held on to that emotion, we should have just felt it. We should just feel it and we get to move on from there, right? So unfortunately, nobody taught us that, right? When we were younger. And so now as adults, we're having to relive some of the stuff and say, okay, what does this feel like? Am I allowed to feel angry? For a long time, I didn't think I was allowed to. And so I didn't. But you can feel it. And we find that when you do feel it, it doesn't last as long as you think it would. It has so much more power when you hold it, which is arguably not a good thing. All right. So if old feelings about money, worth, or safety have been louder than usual lately, you're not imagining it and you're not behind. Okay, you're just early to a conversation the sky is about to have with all of us for the next several years. This week, the only job is to notice. And stay close, guys, because I'm loving the astrology stuff. As you guys know, I've been studying it for quite some time now. But we have an eclipse season coming up, and it opens on August 12th with the solar eclipse in Leo. And eclipse episodes are some of the ones you all come back to again and again. So we are not skipping that one. That one will be out next week before it actually happens. So stay tuned. And if you guys haven't left a review yet, please do so. It is the only way that the podcast gets put in front of more people is when those reviews pop up. And I can tell you right now that this podcast is growing and it's making me so happy. And a lot of it's because of the listeners, because of you guys. So thank you. And we will see you next week.